I'm Olivia Clarke, editor of the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin and Chicago Lawyer Magazine, and we are here with Tina Martini and David Susler, the two Inside Out columnists, and this month we're talking about large law firms. How do you tell the difference between one large law firm from the next?
Well, at first blush, a lot of the large law firms look very similar. But when you take a closer look, you realize that they're actually quite different from one another. And while history is not necessarily determinative as to what a firm is, it often will tell you where a firm is headed. I think that a law firm's spirit and its personality is very much driven by its people and its senior management. And so if a firm and its people end up being entrepreneurial and innovative and proactive, the firm will look a lot different than a firm that is much more about maintaining the status quo and one that resists change and is reactive. A firm's spirit is really driven by things such as its geographic footprint, its size, its practice areas, and its specialties. And it also defines who the firm is in the marketplace and what their mission ends up being. And a firm really can't be everything to everybody. And sometimes firms have a hard time acknowledging that about themselves, but the ones that are able to do that are the ones that are able to set themselves apart from others in the marketplace.
Yeah, two of the most important things that I look for in distinguishing large law firms are the quality of client service and creativity. Certainly substantive experience in the particular subject matter is critical, but that's rarely the distinguishing factor. And like Tina said, I think firms differentiate themselves by demonstrating creativity and entrepreneurial spirit in a proactive way. For example, I look for firms that are really out in front creatively. Firms that are going to suggest solutions to me, demonstrating both the ability and the willingness to partner with me, to collaborate with me to best achieve my goals, and to help me define and articulate what my goals and ultimate results might be. I also think client service is critical. That includes timeliness in response, taking the time to learn my needs and learn as much about the outcomes that I'm looking for and to learn about my company. It's also important to have the ability to properly staff a matter. That's a part of client service, and it's a lot more than simply finding somebody who has a substantive expertise. One other critical factor I like is a strong relationship partner. And that's somebody who really knows me, knows what I want out of a particular matter, out of the relationship, knows my company, and is the one person I can call as my go-to person on anything, no matter what the issue, no matter what the matter.
How have you seen large law firms change?
Well, client needs and demands have changed significantly over the past 5 to 10 years. And there are several reasons for this. For example, globalization of business. Technology continues to evolve at a very rapid rate, and the recent meltdown and economic crisis. I think the third has been particularly, has played a huge role in terms of completely shifting the practice of law, particularly in the context of a large law firm. As a result, large law firms have had to significantly adapt their business model in order to survive. One thing I've seen is that some firms that have been willing to take risks and be innovative and have visionary approaches have actually been able to thrive in this environment, notwithstanding the poor economy. As large law firms continue to evolve and realize that they have to adapt to the new normal, they have to really figure out what differentiates them from others in the marketplace. For example, as businesses and clients become more international in scope, some firms have developed more of an international practice, and some have even crossed the threshold into becoming more global. They've also significantly expanded their service offerings so that they can more closely mirror their clients' needs in different service areas. As a result of the decrease in the demand for legal services, the workforce has been streamlined significantly, which has made law firms more nimble as a result and more able to react quickly. But the downside of that is when it comes to new associates, for example, and attorneys, there's just a decrease in demand. So for those associates who are coming out of law school, for example, their classes are smaller, and it's generally tougher for them to find a job as a result. Overall, the legal market is more competitive, and it's much more of a buyer's market, which has driven large law firms to become more innovative when it comes to billing approaches. Rather than billing by the billable hour, they have to be more creative, and more of a value-based billing approach has been adopted by a lot of them. And it's just forced large law firms to become more accommodating and creative for their clients.
Yeah, well, the obvious answer is large law firms have become larger. What passes for a mid-sized firm today was a large firm 10 years ago. When I graduated law school, 200 lawyers was a large firm. 10 years ago, 500 lawyers was a large law firm, and today 1,000 lawyers and more is a large law firm. Plus, over the last decade, we've seen the rise of many more global law firms. But I think it's the economic meltdown of 2008 that really changed things so dramatically that I think we have to just look back to 2008 and talk about change in the past 3 years. Because large law firms today, at least from my perspective, are vastly different than they were at the end of 2007. The future looked much different at the end of 2007 than it did by the beginning of 2009. And I think one important overriding change in these past 3 years is that many large law firms have embraced the ACC value challenge and have really incorporated the value challenge into their business models. In fact, in many respects, I think the large law firms are ahead of the corporate and in-house world in adopting the essence of the value challenge. For example, and Tina made reference to this, most large law firms now routinely offer value billing as an alternative to hourly billing. Many large law firms have adopted project management techniques, leaner staffing, and more business-like management, all of which are key aspects of the value challenge.
What should new lawyers and new associates expect from a large law firm?
Well, new associates really need to be able to hit the ground running. And that means a few different things. In addition to being well-versed in the law, they also have to be mature. They have to have a healthy dose of common sense. And I think having a really good sense of how businesses operate is really important, whether that business is the law firm for whom they work or a client that they end up servicing. I think having prior work experience, particularly in this day and age, ends up being a really good thing in terms of giving the new associates this experience. I think the expectations of new attorneys are higher than they've ever been before. And now more than ever, attorneys at all different levels of experience must have a keen understanding of where their clients are coming from. And clients are constantly challenging their attorneys to demonstrate what their value add is. And in some ways it may be a bit unfair, but it's something I've been seeing, that the most common folks who are being called to task are the junior associates. They're the ones who in some ways have the most intense pressure to demonstrate what their value add is to a particular file. So my advice to new associates would be that when they are working on a matter, that for every hour they bill, they really think about the value that they're bringing to a file and think about what the client's ultimate objective is, and to really think about whether they are helping the client meet that ultimate objective.
I don't think you can compare today to even 5 years ago, especially for young associates, because the world for new associates dramatically changed at the end of 2008. And with the reality that the jobs, especially at large law firms, became and remain scarce and very difficult to obtain. And I think that's going to remain the case, at least for the foreseeable future. And it's going to be increasingly difficult for new graduates to get jobs at large firms right out of school. For those lucky few who do land large law firm jobs right out of school, there's really no honeymoon period, as Tina really alluded to. They have to produce and show promise right out of the gate, and the leash is much shorter than it ever was before. But on the flip side, I think first-year associates especially may have it better in some respects than used to be because of the increased focus on intensive learning and education and a decreased focus on billable hours during the first year, which many large law firms have really adopted over the last 2 years. This could also be an ideal time for young attorneys and new law school graduates who are focused and proactive and patient. While they may not be able to start right out of law school in a large firm, they can still develop the essential skills necessary for long-term career success, such as resourcefulness, self-reliance, rainmaking, all skills which will not only serve them well over the course of their career, but these are the kinds of skills that large law firms will look for when attorneys have been out of law school for a few years, which is when I think they will start becoming much more attractive to large law firms.
What's the geekiest thing you've done as a lawyer?
Well, I don't know how nerdy this is. Maybe it's nerdier than I think, but apparently I have a knack when I watch commercials that have like popular music. I always seem to exclaim, I hope they got permission for that, which I think is pretty funny. And I also like to walk down the street or read the newspaper or just in my common, mulling around and milling around and doing different things. I always tend to spot intellectual property infringements, and I tend to make them a conversation piece. And it's funny because I don't even realize I'm doing it, but some people tell me that I do it quite often. So whether it's annoying or not, I'm not sure, but it's what I do for a living, so.
Well, having grown up in a family of lawyers, I probably just am a law geek, but one of the things I do, I don't know why I just do it, is I tend to say strike that in regular everyday conversation when I misspeak or change my mind. One of the things I really enjoy doing is talking about law. I love to tell and listen to war stories and debate the law. I could do that nonstop. And I just remember, for example, a few years ago at a recent Thanksgiving, I was working on an appellate brief involving the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, and I involved my father and my aunt, who were both lawyers, in a discussion about the issues, and I noticed pretty quickly everybody drifted away from us.
Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.